Remember, there are very few specific formulas in aggregate planning. Aggregate planning is mostly just logic. There are very few things that are standard in aggregate planning, like they would be the same in each and every problem. One of the few things that might be standard in most cases is the idea of cost. In aggregate planning, we are always looking to assess the cost of the plan. Now, that is exactly what we've been commissioned with here. Let's look. The production manager of Main House Gaming has located the following costs associated with the options used in scenario 1C. Oh, all right, that is a plan that we figured out how to implement it. Okay, here are the costs. You can hire one production employee for $1,000. You can lay off one production employee for $500. If you produce one unit of sale in regular time, that's $15. If you produce one unit of sale in overtime, that's $25. Carrying regular time, an idle regular time hour, $10. Now, wait a minute. You say, what? Why am I being charged for an idle regular time hour? That must be the wage rate, because what it is saying is that if a unit is produced, it's a certain cost, but if you don't use a regular time hour, it's another cost. Oh, okay, that must be the cost that just goes directly to maintaining the employee. Anyway, we're still not to, I know, we're not to the bottom of the list. There was one other cost that was mentioned, carrying one unit in sale of inventory for 1 month, 50 cents. Oh, all right, now, I just had this long list of costs rattled off to me. What is it that we're actually supposed to do here? It says, what is the, and this is typical, total cost of the plan that we developed in scenario 1C. Think about it not as a formula or a set of formulas. Think about it like you're preparing an invoice. We had already figured out how to implement the plan in 1C. The only thing we're doing now is we're drawing up an invoice for all of the various activities that we will be using, so to speak, during that plan. Now, you can see this list here is just copy the row labels from the original, I saved it, scenario 1C. Right, here we were working, whoa, all these calculations, how to implement the plan. Now, question is, what here are we charged money for? I just think the easiest thing might be is let's just go down the list. For instance, it says hiring one production employee, $1,000. New hires was a feature in our plan. I have to look. Did we ever hire anybody in our plan? New hires. Oh yes. We hired 13 people in for the 2nd month and 25 people in just for the 6th month. Okay, think invoice. New hires, 13 people for the 2nd month, 25 people for the 6th month, times the $1,000 each I was just told about is $38,000 in hiring costs. I can check it off. Okay, I've accounted for that. Layoffs, $500 for each instance. The plan. This is the plan that we figured out. Layoffs. Let's see, we have one here. We have one, yes, just as there are 2 months that we hire, there are 2 months that we also reduce the size of the workforce. Okay, then we say 13 plus 7, that's 20, right? Times the 500 each. Okay, my calculator is showing 10,000. Okay, yeah, all right, that would be the cost of layoffs. That's accounted for. Now, what else? We'll just work our way down the list. Okay. What's the next cost? Producing 1 unit of sale in regular time. Oh goodness. Okay. Regular time production. We did use a lot of regular time production. A lot of regular time production. This is overall production. I don't want to be distracted. Regular time, regular time, regular time production. Each one of those costs us $15. Okay, I just need to sum that all up. All right, regular time production. There was 10,000 for the first month. There was 30,000 in regular time for the second month. There was 10,000 in regular time for the third month. There was another 10,000 in regular time for the fourth month. There's nothing in regular time for the fifth month. I'm not going to bother to write plus 0. I'm just going to tag on a lot of regular time production in the sixth month, 37,500. Add up all these numbers, multiply each one of them times 15. Okay, this is a big bill for regular time. For regular time production, I get 1,462,500. Yeah, okay, that looks good. Okay, done. Producing 1 unit of sale in overtime. Did we use any overtime? Overtime. Overtime, 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 overtime. Oh, overtime. Yes, we did overtime. I see in the second month we're working some overtime, and in the sixth month we're working some overtime. So these are the two numbers that I need to include in the invoice. 10,000 plus 12,500 times 25. Okay, I get 562,500. Okay, well then that's accounted for. What else do we spend money on? An idle regular time hour, nothing is produced. Right, an idle regular time hour, nothing is produced. Oh, here's 50 idle regular time hours in the first month, and here's 50 in the third month, and here's 50 in the fourth month. I need to charge us for that. So I just say, well, okay, the 50 plus the 50, it's 150. 50 times $10 each, that's not so bad. 1,500 in idle regular time. Okay, that one's done. And then there's only one other thing that they mention here that costs money. It says cost of carrying 1 unit in sale and inventory for 1 month. Right, we had calculated, we had calculated originally 2 different kinds of inventory. We had calculated ending inventory, and we had calculated average inventory. And sometimes people debate that once you're trying to figure out how much inventory costs you, should you use ending inventory to charge yourself holding costs, or should you use average inventory? There are arguments either way. In this particular case, the funny thing is that people would argue because you should get very similar numbers. Here you'd get exactly the same numbers anyway. We're just going, for my notes, I just used average inventory. Seems like it's the most rational, but you would get the same answer anyway. Now, what do I mean? Pick one, or listen carefully if you're preparing a plan for somebody else, what is their preference? But at any rate, you're going to need to select one of these, right? Average inventory. We carried an average of 2,500 here for 4 months. So we say 2,500. I will go ahead and write it like it's a sum. I mean, you could say 2,500 times 4. But there are 4 months of carrying 2,500 for a month, and this is what it's saying, that in each case, each one is costing you 50 cents. So I get $5,000. $5,000. So I've accounted for inventory costs, regular time costs, overtime costs, hiring costs, layoff costs, idle, regular time costs. You say, yeah, but you haven't used all the rows. True, but I've used all the information about what cost me money. Overall production, turns out I don't need. Ending inventory, we decided not to use that. And the only other thing here is size of the workforce. And it doesn't say that there's any particular charge month for the size of the workforce. So, this is just what I was checking, that for this particular scenario, my invoice is almost finished. I say it's almost finished because we're not really concerned with any one of those costs in particular. We're concerned with, right, what did they ask for? The total cost. So add these numbers up. I get $2,079,500. That is the total cost of the chase demand strategy that we figured out the implementation for in scenario 1C. $2,079,500. All that was asked was the cost. It does kind of raise the question of, is that like a good number or a bad number? You could find a plan that costs considerably less than that, okay? But I just happen to know that because I've played with the numbers before. This is typically how one decides on what aggregate plan to use, by calculating that number and seeing that if we can beat it. For now, it's the only number that we have, so it's the plan we're going to have to go with. It costs over $2 million.